What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel, and thanks for checking in and following along with what we've got going on today. And like you saw in the thumbnail, it's another video on the Cutlass. I mean, I've got a long ways to go on it, so we're gonna keep doing these Sunday videos, hopefully until this thing is on the ground, cranked up. Probably have another few months before all of that happens, because this is kind of my after hours project to work on my stuff, while during the day we work on all of the paying customers in the shop. So, if you guys don't know, we're building a car for Val and Steve Morris of Steve Morris Racing Engines. So that one's going to be pretty exciting, because that car should be deep into the sixes, hopefully in pretty short order after we get it going. That one's going to have a billet SML in it from Steve Morris Racing Engines. At least that was the plan last time we talked. Being that he makes his own blocks and cylinder heads and all that stuff, an SMX may show up. I don't know. But we'll put whatever shows up. We'll put it in the car. So, my Cutlass, on the other hand, is staying true to Oldsmobile and is going to have an Oldsmobile engine in it. And we've talked about it in some of the earlier videos from back further on the channel. So go check those out in the playlist for the Cutlass build. And we do try and, or I try and do kind of a playlist for each car. So you can check out Grant's Corvette. You can check out Val's Camaro. There's a couple of playlists on it back from its previous owner, and then the guy that started building it, and then now that Steve and Val have bought it, there's another playlist. So a few of you are asking about the Ford over there. Yeah, we're going to do a video on that too. So yeah, let's get to work. All right, before we get into the Cutlass, I've mentioned this in a couple of videos ago, and I need to put it in a video, but I got included in a print magazine here, and for me, it's a real big deal because of which magazine it is. So this is National Dragster Magazine, which everybody who gets or who has an NHRA membership, you have the option of getting National Dragster Magazine. If you are a licensed NHRA driver, you either get the print magazine or you can just get it digitally. So this episode, or not this episode, this magazine has what they consider 25 of NHRA's most influential personalities to watch in 2024. What? Because on page 53, look at that. It's me and Soccer Mom. And that's actually a picture from Sick Week. Opposite of Angel Sampé, who has won many Pro Stock motorcycle championships. So, pretty awesome article here. And yeah, they had called me for the interview, and you know, I thought it was just going to be a little tiny thing. And then it shows up and it's a whole page in National Dragster Magazine. And I couldn't have done that without you guys watching and paying attention to what we're doing. So thank you all for watching and subscribing and following along and sharing and commenting and all of that stuff that goes with, you know, a YouTube channel. So pick up the magazine if you want to see what all is written in the article. I can't spoil it for you, but you can see some of the other people in here. There's our buddy Clay. Big article on clay. Kurt Johnson, track specialist. Yeah. Coletta Motorsports. All kinds of different people that are a really big deal. Freiberger from Hot Rod Magazine. And all kinds of people, well, 25 people that they consider to be highly influential, or to be influential. I certainly don't think I'm highly influential. That's just weird. But there's yeah, Sean. What? No way. Cool article on him. And actually, he and I have been texting about some stuff. Might just see him in some drag and drive events in the future. Little top secret tidbit there. It's really not top secret, but anyways. Thanks again for all of you guys watching and getting other companies and stuff to pay attention to me and what we got going on here at the shop. Let's get back to the Cutlass. All right, so last video I made that A-pillar bar off camera. I made that one, got it fit real nice and even, and maybe the flashlight's gonna throw things off, but the I think they're pretty even. That's standing roughly in the middle of the car, maybe. It looked pretty even to me. And like I mentioned in the last video, the front is level with the top of the main hoop, as well as the bar each side is level in this plane, parallel with the floor bars. Yeah, I might be a little OCD. Not clinical, thank goodness. Because I can't imagine it being worse than what it is now. Anyways, first thing, I'm going to put some more weld on all of these joints, because if you remember from the last video, I only put about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of weld on each of these joints. So you got 1 joint, 2 joint, 3 joint, 4 joint, as well as where the main roof halo meets the main hoop. So I need to go put some more time into welding all those, get those solidified in. I should be able to take my ratchet strap out of there that's holding, well, it was holding the bar back against the main hoop. And then I had my adjustable car wash brush to hold that bar up while I was fabricating those. And for those of you that have bent roll cages before or installed roll cages, it's more if you're bending your own bars. But any of the bent bars, especially ones that have bends in different planes, those are the ones that'll really kick your butt. The straight bars, piece of cake. Like, I could knock out the door bars in this thing, because there's going to be, you know, drivers are high in the back, low in the front, and then an X the opposite way, and then there's gussets that go from that bar up to the A-pillar bar, and then from that top of the X in the front down to the vertical piece. Probably knock all of that out super quick. Like, I bet I could, in one day, I bet I could put all of the door bars in the whole car. Like all, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 10 bars. But we're not gonna do that because it's a heck of a lot easier to do the funny car cage bars without all of the door bars in. And the funny car cage bars, you know, obviously they are bent bars. So I'll have from here bent down to that bar. The ones in the middle, they're all straight. Those aren't too bad. This bar that's gonna go, it'll go up a little bit, go across, go down, and then go back. The inner funny car cage bar, That one's gonna be fun. That one, it's a pain in the butt. And then we'll have an outside bar here, which this one's not too bad because there's only one bend in it. The, you know, the outer funny car cage bar, so it'll just come down and then land on the X. And then there's the kidney bar that goes from under the door bar down to that joint down there. So I better stop filming and get to working. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go get some food first because I'm hungry. Yeah, let's do that, and then we're gonna crank out some welding. All right, well, we're firing off into another time lapse of me working and welding on the Cutlass, all of the different 25.3 roll cage bars that go into this chassis. And yeah, there's a lot of them. I think we're probably beyond halfway, at least with the majority of the main cage structure. I'll have to see, like I may add up a count like in the next video or something to see how many I've gotten done and how many are still left to go. There are quite a few that are still needed for the door bar and the funny car cage. So once those are done, you know, we'll definitely be well beyond the halfway point. But the floor bars were a big section, and now you can see doing a little bit of welding work, moving around all of the different bars that I put in the last video. And yeah, I put this in because, you know, both you guys said a while back that you wanted to see all of the work I'm doing to the car, and I'm kind of doing it for my own documentation and my own look back, you know, 15, 20 years from now. Who knows? So you may have noticed while I was doing that welding work that I was moving around and never just kind of sitting in one corner and welding that whole joint out completely. That's one thing that I forget who told me that years ago, but it's good to move around a little bit, like you weld, you know, say a ½ inch or an inch on one joint, and then you move over to the other side of the car and weld that same ½ inch to an inch of the joint, so that you are kind of moving the heat around the car. Because if you do just weld in one corner, you can pull the joints kind of out of square. And, you know, even with a really good fit up, when you look at all of these angled gussets, like, you know, you're welding in the point of the triangle on the inside of the weld joints, and basically that becomes like the weld treats it like a gap in the tubing. So, you know, you get the metal hot and burn it in, and then when you add the filler rod to it, even when you add quite a bit of filler rod to that, it still is heated up, and when it cools, it shrinks a little bit. It's not a lot, you know, we're talking thousandths of an inch here, but when you multiply that thousandths of an inch out over a wider or longer distance of tubing, it can pull things out of whack a little bit. So that's one reason to make sure that you kind of spread the heat around. And you can see we use the Rogue Fab bender to put some bends in these upper bars, and these are 1 1/8 inch tubing, either 1 1/8 inch or 1 1/4 inch. It's a couple days since I've done all that, and I actually don't remember, but I think it was maybe 1 1/4 inch in the roof section. Whatever the spec calls for, that's what it was. And you saw me checking that earlier in the video where I opened the SFI spec book and, you know, looked for the exact details of what size the bars need to be, as well as some of the other specifications that the car has to meet to get to successfully pass the inspection that the car has to have done on it before it goes down the racetrack. So that's part of building these things, and sometimes you just got to be real tedious with it. All right, well, that's a decent bit of progress for today. I'm gonna head home and get a little rest. But yeah, that got a good bit of welding done. And the start of the X. Now the remainder of this won't get finished until the funny car cage is done. And these get 2 gussets on them per the rules. And actually a few people have asked me what the process is, or how do I know what to put where. Well, I buy the book, to put it simply. And these are available from the SFI Foundation. And this is what the front of it looks like. Get out of the way of the shadow there. So this is the 25.3 spec book. And it's pretty thick. So that's how thick the rule book is for the 25.3 spec. And I have at least all of the pertinent specs for what we typically do here. 25.1, 25.2, 25.3, 25.4, 25.5. There's a couple of new ones, a 25.6, which is for really heavy stuff. So haven't bought that spec yet. The 25.1 and 25.2 specs are for faster but lighter, but I believe I will be able to dual cert this car. Maybe triple cert this car, because 25.3 in my opinion is kind of the beefiest, because it's designed for 650 up to 3,600 pounds. And if you meet those rules, but you're lighter than 3,200 pounds, you can spec it 35 or 25.2, which is good for 6 flat. And then if you're 2,800 pounds, I think then it will certify as an overbuilt 25.1, which is good for even faster. So that's not the end of this video, but it's the end of working for me today, and I'm gonna head home. So yeah, back in just 1 second. All right, well, I don't know if you can see me or not. Oh, there I am. I'm using the screen on the front of the GoPro to see what I'm filming, but Eddie and I are down here working, and it's raining. And like, not raining bad, but raining a little bit. Crack of thunder, and then like freaking the lights all went out. And I got a race car to build.
Buddies?
What?
Does that make us Thunder Buddies? We're in the dark here? By ourselves?
Oh gosh, you can stop that.
Oh, okay.
So Eddie's doing some measuring for something on Val and Steve's car. And I'm gonna make some more bars for the Cutlass. Can't do everything that I could do with power. Can't weld stuff in, but I've got some 1-inch gussets to make for the roof. So let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them that I could make. One of them needs a bend in it, but actually we've still got air, because there's air in the system. So we've got air for a little bit, but I'm just gonna convert the hole saw notcher to cordless. And that was my portable light setup there. We're going battery operated for a little while. Kind of a weird turn of events, but I got a race car to build, and tonight was my night to work on it. So I better get back to work, and maybe the power will come back on. All right, so for those of you who watched the shop update video last week, you may have put 2 and 2 together and realized that I filmed the end of that video in the middle of when I filmed this. So this is the first time the power's gone out in a long time at the shop, and I had work to do on my car, and I was not going to give up that easily. So had a little struggle with the saw there, because I used the cold saw just as a clamp for the tubing so that I could cut it with the Sawzall, but it was making the Sawzall the way it was vibrating and shaking the tubing and everything. It was making the tubing swing, and it fell off of the stand that I have further to the left of the screen here that supports the tube when I'm, sliding it to cut the next length that I need. But you can tell the power's back on. It was actually only out for about an hour, so I was able to keep working back to my normal pace. And it's definitely a whole lot faster working with power than it was working in the dark. So I was able to at least cut the tubes that I was going to need for doing the windshield frame gussets here. And that is a requirement in the spec that it has to have these 2 gussets in the windshield plane, the spec calls for. So it's kind of the first ones I'm doing as far as the gusseting goes, and I did some other measurements that I will explain later for why I made these the way that I did. But part of it, at least with me doing them, is I want them to be angled the same, side to side. And you may notice there's a lot of repetition when it comes to a lot of my build style. You'll notice I polished the tubes with a piece of emery cloth, which is kind of like a 1-inch wide sandpaper roll or strip of sandpaper. It comes in a roll, and you can stretch it out and kind of wrap it around the tube and sand back and forth on it. And it makes for what I feel is really efficient sanding stuff or sanding procedure. And then I also drill the holes into the tubes that the gussets are landing on, and that is to allow the air somewhere to escape other than right through the weld joint. Because as you are completing the weld joint around the bar, you're capping off the area where the air can escape from inside of that tube. Well, the reason the air is escaping is because as you are welding the tubing, the air inside of the tube is being heated up, and that, basic physics, that air is expanding. Hot air is way less dense, so that air is getting pushed out into the colder area, and when you get to that last little bit of weld, the air rushing through the weld has contaminants in it that are not pure argon, and so it really uglies up the very end of the weld. You'll get porosity in it, and it's just not good. So that's why we drill the holes in the tubing to give the air somewhere else to go. Another thing you will see me do is over here on this bench, after I notch the tubes, I deburr the inside of the tube with a small carbide bit on a die grinder, and then I also polish the last inch of the tube so that I'm on nice clean metal when I'm welding the joints together to get rid of I've always called it mill scale, and you can see where the tubes are shiny silver in the middle, at least these roof gussets up here, and I'm pointing to the screen while I'm recording this voiceover. You guys can't see me pointing at the screen, but I'm pointing at the screen. It's late at night. That's what happens. You get unfiltered Kevin when it comes to some of these voiceovers. But just like with the earlier gussets, or at least the earlier sections of the cage that I was welding, I am moving around quite a bit in this process with a little bit of welding here, a little bit of welding there. And that's just my process when it comes to doing these. I don't just do one bar and then weld it in completely, at least not when it comes to gussets and stuff. Other parts of the cage, well, let's just say any part of the cage that has a duplicate on the other side of the car, I try and weld them both in kind of at the same time. I think if you go back and watch when I was welding the floor of the cage, I do the same thing when I was welding all of those bars. So this is another pretty big step you know, as far as the cage procedure and the cage progress is coming along, just because a lot of these bars kind of just eat up quite a bit of time with fitting and notching and welding and moving around a little bit and getting the right position to weld. And you'll notice I switch back and forth from holding the torch with my left hand, holding it with my right hand. I am right-handed, and I've gotten to be a pretty good welder with both hands that I can't tell which hand I was using. It used to be that I was way better holding the torch with my right hand, and now I feel like I'm pretty equal as far as being able to feed the filler rod in with my left hand or my right hand. You know, it's just, so at least that's the way I feel, because I'm always trying to do things real nice and real consistent when it comes to the welding procedures in the car, just because you want to have good consistent welds and not have anything that like looks drastically different from the other welds in the car.
Well, that's a good bit of work done for tonight. And I think we're gonna call that good. It's about 11 o'clock, time to go home. This is my one night I can stay late this week because I have my kids for the rest of the week. But look at all them bars. And for those of you that have built chassis before, you may know that these gussets are only required to be a minimum of 4 inches. Well, obviously that's a little longer than 4 inches. So what I have done is my short one, which is this one, that one is about 4.5. And what I have done is there's a bend right there in this bar. It's still warm. So what I'm doing by making them a little bit longer, I'm supporting that bend with that bar. And then that kind of leads to all these other ones being a little bit longer, because I like to tie, you know, things together. Now with how I did this bar bent like that, I may do a little extra bar through there just cause. But that is, heck, I don't remember how many I had in when I started this video. But just tonight, that's 6 bars in, because I did the 2 windshield, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pretty good chunk done for tonight. Depending on how much I get done in the shop during normal hours, in the next couple of days, I may take Friday and work on my car during normal business hours. Kind of getting to the point on some of the projects where we end up on top of each other, and like, not literally, but in the same general work area, and it gets a little busy. So what I may do is come over and work on getting that back bar that I talked about a while back, and then dropping a couple down from that rear hoop, and then there'll be the bars from this intersection point down, and then probably an X in there, and triangles. Triangles are good in your race car, off-roader, anything, side by side, whatever. Triangles make for really strong, well-supported corners. But you can kind of see how things flow together. So that bar comes up and flows right into the roof X, and that goes across, and same with here and all that good stuff. So maybe that's the end of this video. Maybe it's not. If it is, thanks for watching. Appreciate everybody following along, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. Hope you're having a great Sunday. See you next time.